Hello everybody, my name is Jeff Tremblett. I'm here to give you a walkthrough of Mntra's MNDALA Engine and their Oracle library. Hopefully get you on your way to creating some unique sounds of your own. Let's get right into it. We'll start off on the performance screen, which gives you a visual representation of the three axes on which we'll be modifying the sounds. We have the x-axis for contrast, which sounds a bit like this. That changes the landscape and the time of day on the GUI. The y-axis for intensity, which sounds a little bit like this. And that changes our little pyramid structure there. And the z-axis for ether or depth, which sounds a little bit like this. And that changes our little planets in the background, makes them a little more redder and a little bigger. We'll go on to the settings. We have your serial number. You want to keep that around. The type of drive your samples are stored on. You have an SSD or hard drive. Kill all notes, in case you get a little generous with your reverb tails. The sample location, which you can change in case you move your samples to a different drive or the like. Your zoom level, your MIDI mappings, where you can MIDI Learn to the controller you have. So to MIDI Learn, you'll press the little circle and move your controller like so. That will assign them like this, or obviously manually by selecting the CCs from a table. You also have the tuning tab for coarse and fine tuning, and there's a little visualizer on the right hand side, and on the left hand side we have a panel of all the samples that are currently in your preset. We'll move on over to the presets tab up here in the top left corner. We're using the Oracle library. You can also choose any other Mntra libraries you have. So we'll click Oracle, Oracle presets, and we have a variety of pre-made patches for you to choose from. They all sound really great, but we want to adjust them a little bit ourselves. I'm going to work with the Sunder preset, and we'll move on to the Matrix tab, where for each sampler, you have 4 little boys to adjust. You can adjust the gain mapping for each sampler as you adjust the axis, and the pan mapping as you adjust your axis. And if you want to get a little closer look at them, you can hit that little window button, and it'll bring up a larger representation of your little graph here. You can have as many points as you like, all over the place if you want a really crazy mapping. And if you just want to zero it all in, hit this little box right here, and it's all zeroed in. It's important to note that the X gain is dependent on the Y gain. So you can up the X gain all you want, and it won't really change the intensity of your sample. The intensity will come from, you guessed it, the intensity slider. So that's the y-axis. So once I bring up the y-axis, you'll see the intensity will go right up. Just like that. When we go under the samplers tab, we can, on a sample by sample basis, we can adjust a few parameters. We have the velocity table here, the volume overall, the pan, pitch, and envelope. Under envelopes, we have this envelope link button here, which will link any changes you make to the envelope to all of the samplers in your preset. With it off, it'll only adjust the envelope for the selected sampler. We also have the one-shot button, which when enabled, will play your sample all the way through, no longer how long you hold the key, like so. Play it all the way through. With it disabled, the sample will stop playing when you let go of the key, like so. If you like a little abrupt ending. Here we have an equalizer window where you can adjust the EQ of the individual sampler. So if I wanted to add a little high pass filter onto this one, you can dippity do that. We also have a saturator, which we can use to really bring up the heat. So let's bring up the saturation all the way, a bunch of wet, some pre-gain and some post-gain. Here's some before and some after. Under the Arpeggiator tab, we have an Arpeggiator. So we can enable this and choose the pitch of each note in the arpeggio, plus or minus 24 semitones, the velocity of each note, the length of each note, and on these little knobs, we can choose how many notes are in our arpeggios, the speed at which they play, which is tempo synced to your DAW, the shuffle percentage, which is a bit of a swing if you like jazz, and the stride, which determines how many notes your arpeggio will skip in your sequence. At 0, it'll only play the first note. At 1, it'll play them all consecutively. And above that, it'll start skipping notes in your sequence. Just like that. Under our master section is where we'll be adjusting the Z-axis finally. So we have a tremolo, which is actually an LFO, where we have a sine, triangle, saw, square, and random wave. You can tempo sync it to your DAW, or do it freehand with the frequency knob. We also have the fade in, smoothing, and phase amounts. Below that is our delay, which you can adjust the left channels and the right channels independently, or link them together. And you can also do the same with the feedback, left and right channels independently, or link them. You can make some cool sounds if you mismatch them, like so. Hell yeah. Under the delay, we have the convolution reverb, which is based on impulse responses. You get a few in-house IRs with your sampler, but you can import your own if you like. And you can adjust the dampening and the dry level, the pre-delay, and the high cut of your IR. We also have an algorithmic reverb, which you can adjust the size, the width, and the damping by clicking and dragging on the little icons here. There is also a master equalizer, which will affect all of the samplers in your preset. So you can enable that. And if you want a high-pass filter across the entire preset, you can do just that. No low end here. Only fizzy highs. Only fizzy highs in this town. I want to thank you for watching the video. I hope these tips will help you create some unique sounds of your own and set you apart from the rest. My name is Jeff Tremblett. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/injusticeforjoof or on YouTube as Jeff Tremblett. I want to thank the Mntra team for having me out here to record this walkthrough, and happy sound sculpting!